Good evening and welcome to the special board meeting to conduct Curriculum, Finance, and Facilities Committee work of the Radnor Township School Board. Today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, and I have there are three board members in attendance in person. Ms. Stern and Dr. Babson are attending remotely, and we expect Mr. Thornton is in the lobby. He needs to be let into the call. And so there will be 6 of us in attendance this evening. I'm going to start with the call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to ask the board members who are on line to mute themselves unless they're talking. I think it'll just help everybody. Great, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. And just as a reminder for the community, public comment for a special board meeting is limited to the items actually on the agenda. Is there any public comment? Seeing none and understanding there are none remotely, we will move on. The first item on the agenda is curriculum items, and since Dr. Babson chairs that committee, I'm going to actually kick this to him and let him run this section 3 of the agenda. Dr. Babson?
Sure. Okay. So for the curriculum committee, if you've had a chance to review the minutes from our June 3rd meeting, any comments or questions about the minutes? Good. Okay. All right. I'm going to hand it over now to Dr. Dukevich.
Thank you, Dr. Babson. And good evening and welcome back. Our first meeting of the year. Also, my last meeting here at Radnor. So for those who may not be aware, that's true. I do have one more business meeting, but this would be the last board curriculum meeting that I'll be facilitating, I should say. And so as I'll be transitioning to Dr. Ayers as the new superintendent of schools there very, very soon, I did want to take a moment just to share my great appreciation for the board, for Dr. Batchelor, for our administrative team, for our full Radnor staff, for just all the support and collaboration over the last 6 years. So Radnor's a very special place, very difficult to leave, and that's because of the people here. So thank you. So our agenda tonight includes a number of procedural items, agenda items that will be moved forward to next week for approval. However, they're very common this time of year. You'll notice a lot of themes from previous school years. I'll just go down that list and pause if there's any questions. So first, there's a review of approval for one student club at the high school, the Scrapbooking Club, which is a great throwback. Secondly, there is approval of 2 overnight trips for boys lacrosse and cheerleading, and sports have begun, as many of you are aware. There's also approval of 6 contracts that are part of continuations to support our work within the 3 initiatives. They all should look very familiar, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. The one very large contract for Renaissance is a 3-year contract, so we get a percentage decrease when we go for 3 years there. There's a book approval for a 10th grade English class called Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And then also there's approval this year. We always do our 3 handbooks, and we take the opportunity at the August Curriculum Committee to highlight the student handbooks and the changes that are relevant within each of them. These handbooks are also posted on the RTSD website for parents and for students to review. Our handbooks help to set expectations for the orderly operations of our schools, and parents and students are asked to review these each year prior to the start of the school year. They're also available on our webpage again. You'll notice there is a list of changes, some very subtle, others just procedural each year. There's some policy language that shifted a little bit there as well. And then finally, again, for review, and we do this each August as well, are our 3 assessment calendars going into this year. So you'll see the elementary, middle school, and high school assessment calendars. I will point out there's no changes aside from one additional assessment, the qualitative spelling inventory, which will be administered 3 times over the course of the year. And this is part of our implementation of our new ELA program, K-5, into reading. So that's an additional assessment that will come throughout the year, but again, it's part of our new reading program. So we're excited about that. So I'll pause before sharing the last agenda item, which is really just an update to what are the things we're going to be talking about at the Board Curriculum Committee meeting this year. Any questions from the board?
You, Dr. Dukevich.
Yes.
Committee members?
So I actually had a question and a request that I understand the contracts. I don't have an objection, but, and I apologize, this is because I was noticing this on the Finance Committee meeting, so this is not going to be your problem, but in the future, it would be really helpful if the ones that are renewals, I noticed in Finance, we have like a PY for like prior year and the number on that contract. So it's helpful for us to understand when we're renewing what the change is.
Okay.
So if that's something, I don't know who's going to get stuck with your role next in curriculum, but it'd be helpful if that's something we can add in the future. And then, only because I know there are a lot of people at the high school asking this, policy about no phones during the school day is on page 50 of the new handbook. I know a lot of high school students and their parents just kind of sign off and say they've read it, but if they actually have concerns and they want to understand what they're going to be held to, that's the page to look at in the handbook. Did anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
No, that's it. And Ms. Girton, if you had any further thoughts to add?
I don't. I'll add a comment that I'm happy to see the dance contract be eliminated. That started way back when in early days, and I think it's nice to see that we can have dances and, assume that we're all going to be well behaved.
Sounds good.
Great.
All right, then.
I'm fine. Yep, thanks.
All right, great. Well, the final agenda item for this meeting is really an overview for the course of the year, some of the key pieces that will funnel through the Board Curriculum Committee as updates or presentations. All of these will actually be more articulated in the upcoming District Initiatives Review, which is coming next week, and a preview of the proposed initiatives for the current school year. Just to give you a quick overview of this, and you'll notice a lot of continuations as well because of work that you heard about last year, or audits that already have concluded. One, which we're really excited about, is a K-12 professional development initiative that is going to not only engage our full administrative team at the building level, but also teacher leaders that were selected last year and participated in a 2-day training this summer in July with a consultant. His name is Dr. Michael McDowell, and a lot of his work is actually rooted in John Hattie's educational research, so all evidence-based research. And this is all about small, doable practices, strategies, not big program implementation or things like that. And we're very excited about our teacher leaders and our building leaders turning around this training with our staff this year. And I think it's going to make a real nice impact on instruction. And also seem small, doable, and approachable for our teachers. We're continuing our structured literacy professional development alongside the implementation of Into Reading, our new ELA program. That's one of the contracts that are listed tonight from Jody Fleck. She's our primary consultant with the Science of Reading and Structured Literacy. So you'll see that on there. She's been very well received from our teachers and our coaches, and we're hoping this year will be a great continuation of that work. We actually have 3 audits on our curriculum cycle this year. One is a library audit, K-12. The second is the first time we've done this, but it's an audit of our integrated courses, so at the middle school and high school. And the third is also a first time, but we added social emotional learning into our curriculum cycle to ensure that whatever programs we're doing in any one of the tiers, as far as MTSS goes, we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our teachers and our students. So that is also going to be an audit this year. You'll see the BCC presentations are planned for the spring and early summer. And as I shared already, we're implementing a new reading program, K-5, Into Reading, so we're really excited about that. We actually have training coming up for our teachers next week. Our STEELS and IDS realignment is also now going into effect, so that created some scheduling changes for our elementary staff and our teachers, but it's going to be, I think, a really great change for everybody. So that's going into effect, so we'll give an update in May on that topic. And then last year we had a year-long high-performing study of our middle schools and high schools, and from that work came some recommendations and next steps. And so this year we're going to be engaging in a few of those next steps, and that'll be shared as well coming into play. Some are very relevant to the middle school, others to the high school. In some cases, there's a lot of overlap. And then finally, as artificial intelligence continues to advance at a ridiculous speed, we're going to continue to work along with that, and Dr. Hand and his team will provide some updates this year as we continue to learn how to best utilize artificial intelligence with our students and our staff. So I'll pause there. Any questions about the teaching and learning update for this coming school year? Silence is golden.
I really like this summary. Lots of great stuff happening.
No,
Thank you.
Yeah, it does look great. The only question I had was about the AI. I want us to be really sensitive and careful. You know, there are already studies coming out showing like very different and lesser brain activity in people who are using AI than people who are not using AI. As someone who works in the corporate world, if you don't understand AI and have some sense of how to use it, you're going to get left behind very quickly. So I'm very sensitive to the fact that it's not something you can't know. You need to understand it and understand how to use it, but I want to be very sensitive to the fact that we should not just start adopting it wholesale into our programs. I think it's something we need to be careful about.
Excellent point. And I think Dr. Hand and his team have taken a very pragmatic approach and offered teachers a lot of professional development opportunities around when and where and how to use AI. And then we're going to continue to learn and grow along the way. And I'm sure Dr. Hand will be giving you updates throughout the year on what we're doing and getting more feedback then on how it's going.
Can I just jump in with a question? I was wondering if there's opportunity to work with the high-performing middle and high school study and AI, and there may be some opportunities from our peers who learn. So maybe focusing on or including some AI activities or understanding may be helpful.
Great suggestion, DJ, and I will forward that along to whomever will be taking some of that work forward.
And I apologize, I did not get a chance to offer my congratulations to you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
You will be missed.
Thank you very much. We'll throw that suggestion into ChatGPT and see what they come up with.
I had a quick question about the ELA, the new program, the Into-Reading. What does it look like for professional development for all K through 5? Have we already done that for them?
So, and Dr. Kieran, if he wants to come up and share some others, because he's been primarily leading this. But last year, once we made the program recommendation to the board and the board approved the recommendation, we actually started with some professional development last May. So we had a full day there. We've offered, and Jim's been working closely with the publisher, getting materials in the hands of our teachers as early as last spring. So they had much of it over the summer. One of the challenges we had is that it's a version 3, which was recently updated and published. So this is the third version of Into-Reading, so they've improved it along the way, better aligned it with structured literacy along the way, and so it's now more of an integrated approach. And then we gave teachers flex time last year also, to just time to go through the materials with their colleagues and do some comparisons, and also collaborate with their pilot teachers, who we had a good amount of pilot teachers who worked in Into-Reading. Then they had some time over the summer. Jim sent out some flex time opportunities for some online sessions. And then next Tuesday, we have a full day training with HMH that'll be grade specific. That will also help them launch the school year and plan for the school year. I'll turn it over to Jim for anything else.
Thank you, Dr. Dukevich. I think you covered a lot of it. So right, there's the full day training on the 26th, next Tuesday. And we have another full day training scheduled for November 4th, the follow-up in-service day. So after the teachers have gotten the chance to teach the first several modules, come to a better understanding of what they know, don't know, we'll follow up as well. There's a couple additional supports that we have in place that are sort of unique to this implementation. One is sort of on-demand online coaching that our teachers will have some access to through the publisher. So the grade level chairs in each of our schools and each of our grade levels, as well as our MTSS facilitators and coaches, will have a license where, as they have questions or their team have questions, they'll be able to reach out to a coach on an as-needed basis, schedule as many or as few interactions as they would like to talk about their questions, work through any planning they might need to work through, get those things addressed. In addition to that, so that's a lot of the formal professional development that we have in place for all of our teachers. There were grade level teams of teachers who came together this summer as well to work on the curriculum and common assessment documents. So they had opportunities, we had some opportunities to deliberate about what do we think appropriate pacing is for the new program, what are the assessments we want to require all teachers to give to all students, and what guidance do we have for teachers to implement effectively. So we feel like we're in a strong place and a good place to start the year, but we also know it's going to be a pretty big adjustment for our K-5 teachers in our elementary schools, but one I think they're also looking forward to.
Thank you, Dr. Kearney.
I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Babson.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's fine. I think during the planning meeting, I was able to cover some comments and questions, so thank you. Looks great. It's a nice testament to all the wonderful things happening in terms of curriculum and our offerings in the district, so thanks.
Okay, thank you. So next on the agenda, we're going to do the finance items. And since Ms. Solomon is not here this evening, I will handle the finance meeting piece. The members of the board who were on the finance committee, did you have a chance to review last month's minutes, and are you okay with them? Mr. Thornton?
No changes from me.
Okay, great. Next item on the agenda, well, why don't I'll let you get seated, but I think I will kick off the next section to Mr. Pauling, since I'm sure he can explain it a lot more eloquently than I can.
Thank you very much. So we have a number of routine contracts for approval and or ratification that were executed in the summer based on our resolution that we passed in the spring for me to conduct business and then bring those items forth to the board at this month's meeting. So there are some benefit contracts there for our COBRA administration and our district vision insurance. The vision insurance is a cost to the employee, so it's a voluntary coverage. There's no cost to the district, but we still have it on there as a benefit for the committee's approval. We have substitute nurses, 2 vendors there for services as needed, and the rates listed there, which are increases to the prior year. We have a contract with SOS Group. We primarily use them for food service substitutes should we need it. We're at a pretty good staffing level with food service. I was just talking to the department today. Sorry, nutritional services. It'd take me a minute to get used to that. So we're in pretty good shape from staffing perspectives, but as things change during the year, we have that to fall back on should we need it. We have some temporary agreements, one with the Delaware County IU and one with Dr. Kent Swigert for limited technology support services to help with operations in the department. One of the big items I wanted to touch on was our annual insurance renewal. There was quite a significant increase from last year. There's a couple factors on that. And we kind of anticipated this back in the late spring. We had gotten some information. Everybody's paying for kind of the global insurance market. So in 2024, there was $27 billion worth of claims related to disasters, which was one of the highest years ever. So we saw an increase in our property as well as our excess liability rates to cover those items. So that's where we saw the increase in that, which was, again, an industry. We didn't have anything major here that impacted us. All of our other coverages were relatively flat or had very modest increases. That was really what drove the pricing factor this year on the insurance renewal. We have our Delaware County Community College budget, which was a slight increase from last year. Our bus route approval, a waiver of tuition for 10 Radnor A Better Chance student program again, and then the PDE approved tuition rates for both elementary and secondary that are calculated by the department every year. So I'll stop there on the contracts.
maybe mention to our global insurance carrier that we aren't all those problems, but you don't think we could get a better rate with a different carrier? This is going to be,
We do shop it around every
Okay.
year, so our broker does solicit proposals, but we saw that same information come in from a different broker at a different presentation and different information back in the spring. So same information that was when we talked about our renewal with our broker. Nothing that we're doing, just an industry-wide. We're kind of all picking up the slack for the what's going on.
must be nice to have a business model where everybody else pays for your poor planning.
Yeah, and in fact, what we had to do with our excess liability is because our current carrier with that would only cover us for a certain amount, we did have to shop that out with a second carrier. So even in that, so what that does is that carries us for additional coverages at $5 and $10 million and $5 and $15 million. So if we have high cost claims, it's a secondary policy that picks up to additionally cover the district. We saw quite a bit there because of those high costs and the risk of us potentially having something that would trigger that.
It's a shame in my mind that, you know, the township spent so much money to put in better water systems around here, you know, water retention, and it's not being reflected. It's not your fault, I understand that. But it's a shame it's not reflected in our insurance costs.
Yeah.
One just quick correction, I think there are 11 students in the ABC house this year.
Oh, are there?
Yep,
Okay, we can correct that for next week.
yep, it's not an urgent thing.
That's one of those things that falls under finance, because I'm not sure they know where else to put it,
Yeah.
so.
No, I figured
Not
that's
my
why I thought
wheelhouse, but I
mentioned
will
that.
make the change for next week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else?
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
yeah, no, just so, Brian, thank you for that information. That equates to about a 33% increase, or maybe a little bit less than that, which when my house went to renew its insurance last summer for the year, which became irrelevant, but I'm getting to a point here. It was about a 33% increase. So, I mean, that number that it's slightly less than that, I'm relieved. There was one factor that my agent, I don't know if this is available in the broader insurance industry, but one of the ways that they are talking about trying to keep cost containment down is structuring part of the insurance coverage, and I'm talking about the liability damage, the property damage stuff, is moving to a copay deductible structure versus, a set deductible level. I don't know if that's something that would be a significant savings for us. Obviously, it's a risk reward, but I mentioned that because they mentioned it to me last year.
Yeah, I can look and see if that's an option. We kept our deductible amounts and all of our baselines the same, but those are things that we could potentially look at to help mitigate those annual increases. As our per occurrence costs could go up if we decide to increase our deductible from $5,000 to $10,000. It does help us when we make decisions, when we have minor incidents here at the district of whether we're going to submit that to the carrier or not. So those things
Okay.
come into play with the property and the auto, if we have, especially with our bus fleet, if something comes up. So that could impact that as well. But yeah, that's something that I could certainly look into. And we can look at different options for next year, and that's something that I'll work on with our broker.
Well,
I'm not surprised by those numbers, so thank you. I'm sure you're working on it hard, diligently.
and along those lines, you could even maybe set up a fund where, some of the savings that we're not spending on the insurance carrier, we could put into a fund to help cover a higher deductible if something came up.
Yeah, and if something would, like, if it was related to a property, like, we could utilize our capital reserve fund. If it's more than that, or what our comfort level is and what we have in addition there to what we've already obligated, we could set something up like that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the finance agenda? Okay, sorry, Mr. Pauling, keep going.
Yep, just real quick, we had a donation from the Bucci family of $1,000 for Ithan Elementary School, so we thank them for that. And then we have a few disposals recommended by our Transportation Department and Ithan Elementary School. And then that would conclude the action items on the agenda.
So, and just to clarify, are they disposals or will, like I don't know about the instruments, but are the vehicles worth anything? Or it might be a sale?
Yeah, those we would look to sell if we can.
Okay.
Yeah, usually with the higher ticket items like that. So like the 36 passenger school bus that's listed there, that one we would sell. So if it's in good enough condition that it's usable, we'll normally look to see if we can sell it on the market. Sometimes we see if there's other institutions. We had that happen where somebody would buy it from us and we kind of negotiate a price with them. If it's really nothing more than scrap, then we'll list it as disposal, but on a vehicle, then we'll try to get, scrap metal costs for the disposal.
Excellent. Okay. Do you want to cover and thank you again to the Bucci family, that is very kind.
Yes.
The district-wide supplementals?
Yeah, so I will tee this up. This is something that we wanted to make a priority during the 24-25 school year to review our supplementals. It's been, at least a decade since we've gone through and done a comprehensive review of that. So myself and Mr. Stitzel and Mr. Bechtold went through information gathering. We went through a process where we reviewed the supplementals. We looked at where we had comparisons with other districts, interviews with our staff that are in those supplementals now, and Mr. Bechtold kind of really did the yeoman's work of compiling all that information and putting together a recommendation that we have tonight. So I'm going to ask if they want to come up. I know we prepared some slides to talk about the process that we went through, the methodology, and then we have some recommendations for those supplementals that we would ask the board to approve, and whether we would do that next week or wait until September to allow the board time to digest that. We can discuss that, but with that, I'll let Mr. Bechtold kind of run through the presentation and what we did to get to here.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I think you're on.
It's on me.
You're waiting for it to
Yeah.
come up on the screen.
I'm doing double reading here, so.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right to the background slide. So we'll jump through and dive right into it. So thank you. So just for context, when we went and looked at this, we have athletic supplementals and non-athletic supplementals. For the athletic supplementals, we compete in the Central Athletic League, which is against local teams, Lower Merion, Harriton, Conestoga, Marple, Haverford, Garnet Valley, et cetera. So they're really comparable districts, and we used them when we were looking at the comps. The last time, as Mr. Pauling said, it was a 2014-2015 school year when we really looked at this. This means that we had very limited changes to our supplementals since that time. We've added some that's taken board action, and we've had minor adjustments to some of them that's taken board action. But for the most part, the rates have been the rates in 2014-2015. We budgeted, the budget's in there. Study scope, I'll highlight. We really looked at apples to apples, and we'll touch on this when we look at non-athletic supplementals and athletic supplementals. There are, I see our meeting will end in 10 minutes. I will talk fast.
Promises, promises.
Yeah. So we really tried to look at apples to apples. When we did that, sometimes there's not enough comps. And one of the things I'll say about Radnor is we really try to provide a lot of opportunities for our students. When we're looking at it, some other districts don't have the same type of supplementals that we have. So, and lastly, club sports were not included because we just reviewed them in 23-24. Definitions. Essentially, there's two types, non-athletic, which are flat rate supplementals, and athletics, which are tiered pay. And so when we look at tiered pay, this is just steps. So a level 1 means that a coach has 1 to 3 years experience. Step 2 would be 4 to 6 years experience. A step 3 or level 3 would be 7 to 9 years experience. Level 4 is 10 plus. And that is very common in the area. You have flat rate non-athletic supplementals and tiered pay athletics. And our supplemental pay rate remained unchanged for over a decade. It is $23.09. This is one of the ways that we help to calculate compensation. It also impacts a la carte non-curricular extra duty work, which is budgeted for, but that's the rate that people get paid for non-curricular work. All right, our payment methodology. Here are some common methods used by districts around us. These can be used in combination with each other. So, for example, the percentage of leadership position, the point value or unit value, and the tiered pay is all used in our athletic supplemental calculations. So we would go and set a point value for a head coach. We do a percentage of leadership position after we set the head coach's value. So like an assistant coach would get 80%. And then tiered pay would go down through for all the rest of the assistants. Timeline, we spent the better part of the last year looking at this and was able to gather information from a variety of other districts, from our supplemental holders, from our booster clubs, and really dig into what this means and then have internal conversations with our administrative team as to what makes sense. The data sets, we're able to gather Cal data from 23-24, and this is for athletics at the high school level specifically. And then we also compiled 24-25, which is last year's data for high school and middle school athletics and non-athletic supplementals. And then at the bottom, one of the things that we noticed is that because we had not adjusted our supplemental rate, we were out of market value for a number of supplementals. So feedback, we were able to get feedback from supplemental holders, and this is really valuable because we were able to get new ideas for new supplementals, and you'll see those in one of the coming slides. B, changes to supplementals over time. So how's the responsibilities or the supplemental morphed over the last 10 years, and then also things to consider. So what are some things that they know that other districts do or other people do that have a similar position? We also reached out to feedback from our booster clubs and was able to, it helped us to understand the full picture of coaching compensation in the district. And so the booster clubs were able to go and let us know, like, some of them are not able to give end-of-year gifts or end-of-year or any type of compensation. Some of them are able to give end-of-year gifts at the end-of-year celebrations that they do, whether that's banquets or whatever, and some of them help to supplement salary or pay additional assistant coaches. We looked at the feedback that we received from the stakeholders. We all talked with the building administrators and athletic directors at the high school and the middle school. The administration is recommending the addition of the following supplementals, and I guess this is a finance, the costs associated are included there. One of the things we're looking at in conversation with the middle school athletic department, we found two cost-saving areas. So when we looked at middle school coaching structure, the majority of sports have one coach per grade. And we identified that for a number of years we had two coaches for the same grade for two sports that one of them went unfilled. And so this would bring us into alignment with other sports at the middle school. We will still run these sports. We will have the same number of coaches that we've had, and it will be a cost savings of $14,000 and change. All right, so when we look at athletic supplementals, the formula that was included in the 2015-16 study is included above. One of the things that we did is we looked at this and reviewed this formula. We updated the varsity and JV participation rates, and then we also, based on looking at what other districts do, included in injury risk, scouting responsibilities, and local district compensation comparisons. Injury risk, we were actually able to pull from the National Federation of High School Sports. They provide data that is injury data by sport, and so we actually pulled that from there. Scouting responsibilities, other districts pay coaches for scouting for specific sports. So I'll give a specific example. So track, you do not need to go out and scout how your opponent is doing the high jump or the long jump or how fast they're running. You need to focus on yourself and what your technique is. It's very different than girls basketball. You want to know the plays. You want to know what they're running and their defense and their offense. And so scouting responsibilities can differ by sport. And pay structure, we remained the same. We have a 4-step schedule. We have tiered assistant coaches pay. One of the adjustments that we made administratively when we talked, we had some participation rates that slightly factored into certain sports making more than other sports for the same tier. So for example, our girls track head coach made more than our boys track head coach simply because of tiered participation rates, even if they had the same amount of experience. Likewise, our boys tennis coach made more than our girls tennis coach because of the formula based on participation rates. So one of the things that we did was we equalized pay for whatever was higher. So if the girls team for a like sport had a higher pay, we made the boys team equal. If the boys team had a higher pay, we made the girls team equal. So it doesn't matter if you're a girls soccer coach or a boys soccer coach, you're in the same tiered pay structure. Same thing with softball and baseball, same thing with boys and girls lacrosse, same thing with girls and boys basketball. For non-athletic supplementals, this was, the rate determination was based on market comparisons and what we felt was the workload was for each role. The difference between non-athletic and athletic supplementals, and we put an example here. You have a defined season for a PIAA sport. You know when you're going to start, you know when you're going to end, you know how many practices you're going to have. You're limited on the number of competitions. They actually have a competition schedule. And for a non-athletic supplemental, you could have one district that's got a robotics club that they meet all the time, and they go to a ton of competitions, and another one meets just for a semester once a month, once a week, and so the differences can be very stark when you're looking at non-athletic supplementals. We did recommend adjustments to non-athletic supplementals because one of the things that we want to do is make sure we're attracting quality candidates, and that was based on all the feedback and comps that we got. So looking ahead, one of the things that we want to do is to build in, effectively budget and build in fair compensation so we can attract the best candidates. So a 1% increase is what we are recommending that the board approve for all athletic and non-athletic supplementals beginning in the 26-27 year. And that will help us to continue to slowly move the needle, give Mr. Pauling and the board an opportunity to understand these increases moving forward until we have a full review again. And then also up our a la carte extra duty rate from $23.09 to $25 an hour. We do have hours that are set aside for that it's at the supplemental rate for a variety of different things in the district. This rate we're recommending stay at $25 an hour until the administration comes back to the board and says, we think that we need to have an increase and the board approves it.
And Mr. Bechtel, if I could, before you get to questions, just jump in. So we're also recommending in there adjustments to the package. Besides the 1%, there's also adjustments to many of the different.
Yes, so the 1% is for 26-27.
Right.
And so there was a comprehensive review with increases for 25-26 for this year, and then the 1% increase would be for next and subsequent years.
So if I can just jump in, I just want to check with Dr. Hand on our Zoom meeting and our other three board members.
We might have lost them.
So yeah, so I figured we'll just pause until we can get them back on.
Yep.
Yeah.
DJ wins the prize for the first one back. Sorry for that little glitch. Sorry about that, DJ. I was just gonna, do you think he can hear? Great. You're all back. Just, will you wave if you can all hear me? Okay, great. Just making sure. Ms. Stern, I didn't see you wave. I just want to make sure you can hear us. I'm sensing from that face that she can't. Ms. Stern?
Great.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Ms. Stern, since you're off mute,
Do
you have questions?
I do. I do want to just, hold on. I think I accidentally have the meeting going on. So let me turn off the Zoom. But what I wanted to say was, first of all, in typical fashion, Dan, you did, Mr. Bechtold, you did a great job.
Thank you. It was a team
And
effort.
I know it was a group effort, but you did a phenomenal job. I was part of that study 10 years ago. I distinctly remember sitting in the office of our HR director, and our business administrator was there. And I was there with Susan Michelson, Dr. Batchelor. And so it has been a long time since we've looked at this, and I appreciate the work. I fully support everything you did. And I like that you're building in, you're building in the need for acknowledging that over time, we need to increase our rates. So thank you for being forward thinking about that. I think the only question I have about it is, do as many matrix as you have and you've figured out the price, do you have positions you just can't fill? And do we need to have you built in the detail of specific market adjustments to recognize when the market tells us we need to pay more in order to get a high quality coach for our students? Because to your point, we do try very hard to give our students as many opportunities and the best experience of opportunities as we possibly can.
And I'll jump in and say the board has been really great about that when we've had situations that have come up. And I'll point to the swim assistant coach. We had a serious issue. We've reposted multiple times. And fortunately for us, we were able to work out an agreement with RAC. We came to the board and said, hey, we need an assistant coach at the swim level, and we've been striking out, and the board was able to move on that. We've also had some adjustments to other supplementals, specifically non-athletic supplementals, that we've come to the board with and said, this is important, we need to make an adjustment here, and the board has voted those through. So we are certainly, not hesitant to ask if it is going to directly negatively impact students to make an adjustment.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Ms. Curtin?
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Mr. Bechtold and team. I think this is really an important work that you've done for a couple of reasons. One, it was needed, and also I think it really helps with some myth busting in the community, because there's a lot of talk always about coaches and non-sports, whatever. So I think this really helps for some clarity and to be up to snuff with other Central League schools is really great to see. Thank you.
I have a question and comment.
Go ahead.
I'm really impressed with what you've put together also. And Susan, if you were in those meetings early on, I do have a couple questions, and I don't know if you know them offhand, but as it pertains to supplementals, both athletic and non-athletic, do we know how many we have in comparison to other schools in the Central League?
So they're all over the place. I would say every district, and we went through and pulled districts and looked at them. A lot of them have a document similar to what we created that lists all of them. Again, I would say we have more elementary non-athletic supplementals than other districts. We do a really great job comparative to other districts in the Central League. I would say that it really depends on what the district's priorities are and what the student interests are, is my guess. Because when you're going through here, you'll see similar but different activities. Like we have the Annenberg Science Symposium, and other districts may have the Science Olympiad, and we have FBLA, and other districts may have DECA, and we may have Ethics Bowl, and they may not have anything. And so, like, it's really, I think that looking at them, there are some uniform things that a lot of districts have, and that you'll see, oh, like, you know, everybody's got a marching band, everybody's got soccer teams, everybody's got, but there's nuanced differences as far as you know, what's offered from district to district, and there's not a lot of rhyme or reason. I would just chalk it up to student interest and board willingness and administration willingness to pay for that.
Okay. I think I asked that question because Radnor is significantly smaller than some in the school district, so that's why it's so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Again, incredible research that went into, I know this was a long time, and it involved a lot of effort on everybody's part on the team. I just want to clarify something. There, you talk about the pay amount is $23.09. Are coaches actually like putting in timesheets, or is it just it's an estimate of what the time it is to do the work?
It is, they're not putting in timesheets. These are all flat rate supplementals.
Okay.
So all of the athletic and non-athletic supplementals, the 2309 rate is a piece of a formula that helps to gauge what we think that should be.
Okay.
And then when you accept that, either as a coach or a non-athletic supplemental holder, you are saying, I am willing to accept this much money to do everything that's in the job description. So it's a piece of it that helps us to make an idea of what the cost should be. But people are not submitting timesheets. They do submit timesheets for extra duty work. And so.
No, and I ask, and I couldn't even remember who it is, so I'm not pointing fingers. I just remember when one of my children was in middle school being in a sport, and I thought it was a 5-day-a-week sport, and they never had Friday practice, which as a parent meant I suddenly had to figure out at Friday afternoon plans. So I was a little surprised, you know, if it's a 5-day-a-week program, it should be, or if it's only a 4-day-a-week program, that should be built into the supplemental as well.
So all of the middle school sports are 4-day-a-week.
Well, and that might have been something I didn't understand. Don't anybody expect Fridays covered. The other reason I asked went right out of my head. Oh, no, and I guess the question, and this is probably a head nod from Mr. Stitzel at the back, you know, you added something, you said, for example, like some coaches would have an expectation of doing scouting. Does that get put into like the job description for the supplemental?
So we are revising, so we've got the proposal for supplementals, and then we have earmarked a number of them to revise the job descriptions for, and both athletic and non-athletic.
Okay. And then just from a reassurance standpoint in terms of board costs, you know, we'll have a sport that says, it's like, so football has a whole long list of coaches, but a lot of other sports have a head coach and an assistant coach. Does that mean we're limited to one assistant coach, and the board knows that, you know, that combined amount is all that sport's gonna cost us, or could they decide they need 2 or 3 assistant coaches, and that's just, they're all gonna get that rate?
So we went position for position.
Okay.
So every position that we had last year, we have in the budget for this year, minus the 2 duplicate positions at the middle school, plus the page of additions. So
Okay.
if we had 3 baseball coaches last year, we're gonna have 3 this year.
Okay.
If we had 6 football coaches, we're gonna have 6. Whatever the number was last year is the same number that we're gonna post for this year. They're budgeted for, and the only changes to the number of coaches or supplementals is listed on the pages, on page number 10 in the, page number 10 in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
So along those lines of that question, could a team that has one head coach and one assistant, could the head coach decide to split the assistant coach salary in half and have two people if they wanted to, if they worked that out with the AD and the principal?
Certainly, and that's common practice. We've had people that, and you'll see on the board agendas for supplementals and athletic positions, we split, and the board approves prorated through the HR office all the time.
So, for example, here, we had a girls' tennis coach, assistant coach last year. Are we adding an assistant tennis coach this year, or is it a change to the fee?
We are adding, these are brand new positions. So the girls' tennis program's gonna have the same number of coaches they had, plus we're gonna have an additional assistant coach at $4,038. So last year they had a
Last year they
head
had
coach
one, yeah.
and an assistant coach. This year they'll have a head coach and 2 assistant coaches.
Okay, and the determination was made by the athletic department that we need an additional assistant coach for
They
that team?
advocated for it because the team is anticipated to have 60 students this year.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Partially 'cause
Dan,
they-
just
they don't have
quick
cuts,
question.
that's why.
I followed all that. Where's the $25 an hour? Why are these dollar amounts not increments of $25 an hour?
Because $25 an hour is a piece of a formula. It is not the formula. So you could have, again, it's a complicated formula that takes a variety of different things into it, and that 25 is a piece of it, so it could be a fraction of that, Susan.
Thank you.
And volleyball they are getting also an additional assistant coach?
Yes, so, and I can explain slide 10 a little bit better. So we are getting an additional girls volleyball assistant coach because of the numbers. At the high school level, we're getting an additional co-ed indoor track and we're recommending an co-ed indoor track assistant coach. We're recommending a boys tennis assistant coach. So those 4 athletic positions will be new positions costing $18,522 for the district. There will be all of the positions that those sports had last year will return, and so these are additions to those based on student interest. And so we've had an increase in these sports for a number of years of the numbers going up, and so these are pluses.
Okay, so, but it means that in the future, is it the athletic department who's responsible, or is it HR who's responsible for watching those interest rates? And when I say interest rates, I mean student participation rates. I just want to make sure we're being mindful of the additional costs and making sure, yes, we have 60 kids initially, maybe we have 60, we have enough kids for volleyball too, but if the next year half of them graduate, I don't think the district should necessarily be spending the money for 2 additional assistant coaches. So I'm hoping someone is watching that on an annual basis as opposed to just assuming they roll over. 'Cause nobody volunteers, we have too much help.
So that's
Anywhere.
a great point.
I
And
don't.
so we did not have, we don't fill positions that we don't have student interest for. So girls softball did not have interest to run a freshman team this year. We had budgeted money for a JVB, which is a freshman head coach, and we didn't have players because they all got pulled up to JV. So we didn't run a freshman team, so we didn't post it, and the district didn't spend money on that.
Okay, that's helpful. I just want to make sure someone's watching that. I don't mind additional resources where they're genuinely necessary and where it benefits the students, but I don't want to have head count just to have head count.
And I think that's when we looked at the duplicates, we also didn't have.
No, and I appreciate that you guys did that at the middle school level. I think that's very helpful. There's a lot of inertia once you get somebody filling a position and you just kind of put the same names in every year and you can kind of, especially, I also appreciate, because I think it creates a lot of stability for the district, the idea that the more years you're in the position, the years of experience, the more you earn. Because yes, for them, they gain some efficiencies, right, knowing how to deal with everybody. But it also is so much more efficient for us not to be out hunting for a new tennis coach every year, a new volleyball coach every year. So, it encourages people to stay, but I don't want it to be one of those, we just keep people because we've had them forever. So I just want to make sure and so I'm not looking to get rid of people. I just want to make sure we're being efficient.
And we have Mr. Stitzel here, and I think we already have that in place, but I think this is a good time, now that we're looking at it, to make sure that each year when we have the supplementals between our athletic department and HR office, the thresholds are being looked at, especially with the assistant coaches. So to make sure that, okay, as the tennis team still need that additional assistant coach each year, we can make, and we do that now, but I think with this, we can make sure that that process exists between the HR office and the athletic office.
Okay, go ahead.
I had a
Sorry.
quick question for Mr. Pauling. The impact on the budget, you find this to work with your numbers?
Yeah, so we knew we were going through this process as we were creating the 25-26 budget that we're currently working in. So as we were reviewing the comps and seeing where other districts were at, we knew that there'd be an adjustment that we'd be recommending. So I did build money into the budget. There's a placeholder in there. We didn't allocate it by sport. As we reviewed this and came down to, the final recommendations based on the new methodology that was developed, we had an adequate amount in the budget to cover the recommended increases in both the rate and the way that the calculations were performed with each position. So it's not something that we would necessarily have to phase in either. We could implement this in full, and then we would just build in that 1% increase that we talked about in the rate in subsequent budgets. So financially, we are well equipped to cover it.
And I want to thank Mr. Pauling and the board for doing that, because we did toy with and discuss months ago, maybe we would do a little increase one year and then a little increase to try to catch up. Sometimes it's hard to do that once you recognize you're behind. And so it was good that we went the path we've gone. So I want to just thank Mr. Pauling and the board for doing that and giving us that opportunity.
Okay.
So
Just
the next
one other question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mr. Thornton.
No problem. I see the Best Buddies assistant is a little bit of an outlier in terms of being lower than the others. And I wonder about the comparisons and the opportunities at other schools. How did we come up with that number? Can you just talk a little bit about how Best Buddies was calculated and how that may be different than the other positions?
Certainly. So this is a new position. We had a Best Buddies supervisor, and we did not have an assistant. When we went through the interviews with staff members, one of the people that came forward was Mrs. Civitella at the high school, who is the sponsor for Best Buddies, and she pitched having a assistant to help to expand programming for Best Buddies. So as an administrative team, talked with the high school, looked at how we could help support this. We increased the rate for the supervisor, and we added an assistant to ensure that we could add additional programming for Best Buddies.
So, but Best Buddies is a year-round program, right? We just thinking that assistant program doesn't take that much time?
So this is a person who will be assisting Ms. Civitella, the supervisor, in putting on additional programming for this. So this came out of something that Mrs. Civitella is very passionate about, looking at what other districts do, and she put together a proposal for this. And so we were able to go and say, all right, yes, we're going to increase what she's doing, and then also give her an assistant that's going to be able to help her continue to build and foster the programming. Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Thornton, does that answer your question? I think you were probably looking at the number and saying, why does an assistant coach make $4,000 and an assistant to the Best Buddies program make $1,250?
Yeah, it was a question of equity there, absolutely. And just trying to understand the needs and demands and the perception of that program versus the others.
So I think my point was, is the expectation that this is significantly fewer hours, even though it's a year-round position?
Again, I think this is something that that when we looked at the position that we had, because we had a Best Buddy supervisor,
Right.
We were asked to add to it. So we added an assistant and we increased the hours. We're happy to come back to the board and say, hey, we would need more hours for this. But at this point, we do have supplementals that are less than $1,250 when we look at the non-athletics. And that goes back to the slide where we talked about how many, what is apples to apples in different districts for non-athletics. So this is an increase on two different fronts. It's an increase for the supervisor for that activity, and it's an increase of a assistant that did not exist before. I will certainly speak with Dr. McNamara and Mrs. Civitella after this goes out, and ask them to keep myself and Mr. Stitzel and Mr. Pauling apprised of this. If we need to add more hours, we will certainly come back and say to the board and say, hey, this is a position that we need to get more hours for because they want to do X, Y, and Z, and then we'll come back and request an increase.
Okay. I think it's helpful, and this is probably where you're going, Mr. Thornton. I know we're not asking people to track hours for this, but maybe given that it's a new position and it does maybe look a little off, and maybe it's just in the bucket of what we're looking at here. If the person who does that could keep some sense of their hours, and, whether it's like new because they're new, or whether it's really, it may be that it's only an hour or two a week and it doesn't end up being that much time, but if it's significantly more than that, it would be helpful to understand that.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
So just from a housekeeping perspective, so we would want the board to approve the recommended rate changes. So with our action meeting being next week, what we would propose is we could put a schedule together of all the supplementals and the proposed rates for board approval. And then we'd subsequently, for people that are on the agenda for next week, adjust the rate accordingly. We have staff members, obviously, as we were going through the buildings and interviewing them and talking to them and them giving us feedback like they knew this was coming. And so they're all chomping at the bit to see what the new rates are. So if we have it approved next week, we can get that out to the staff as well as to the board as it becomes part of the public agenda, but then we can share that with the staff internally as well so that they know what those recommended rates are, and then, they wouldn't become official until the board would act on them next week. If the board would need more time, we could push that back to September, but we'll look to the board for direction on how you would want to handle that, just to so that we're, not pushing you into anything you don't feel comfortable with for putting it on for next week.
So, and I'm only a little sensitive to it because I know the chair of our finance committee isn't here. So, I without kind of knowing that the finance committee has talked about it, it's a big change. It's a lot to kind of process. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but let me kind of check in with some folks. If we voted on it in September, we could still make it retroactive. It's not as if people wouldn't get the pay in September. It's just that we would have time to really walk through it and understand all the mechanics.
Yeah, so that's actually the easier part, is the retro and that mechanic. I think the other thing that Mr. Bechtel and I were talking about was with the staff.
Yeah.
So as they're looking to, they want to know what the rates are. That's kind of like,
They wanna know the pay
opening their
before they
present
take
that
the
we,
job.
we promised them for the last year that we were going to give to them. So,
I got
so that's something that we may share with the staff, with the caveat that it doesn't become official until the board acts on it. So if we would need more time, we could certainly retro that back, but I think that would be more I don't know if urgency is the right word, but that's something that we would want to do sooner rather than later.
Okay. So that is the extent of the finance agenda. Ms. Rosenblum, I'm told that you are prepared, if you would like to run the facilities agenda, but I won't make you do it if you don't want to. You just use your microphone. Okay. So, yep, we are live. Can I pass you, would you like to run the facilities agenda?
Sure. It's light tonight, and
Excuse me, Ms. Dunn? My apologies.
Yes, that's okay.
But with the restructured evening, I actually need to step off.
Okay.
I read through the document for the roof. I will be supportive of that. So thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, and we'll still have a quorum of 5 when she steps away, so
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
thank you, Ms. Stern.
Good night.
Good night, Susan.
Okay, Mr. Morris is getting set up? That's fine. You don't. Okay. Okay. Well, so while Mr. Morrison is getting that ready, Mr. Morris, sorry, I always say Morrison, are the meeting minutes from the Facilities Committee in June, are those acceptable to the members of the Facilities Committee? Okay, great. So we've already covered the first item. And Mr. Morris is just getting his presentation set up. There we go.
Are we ready? All right. Apologize if it's not full screen, but we have the, tonight, just a couple things. On the agenda, I do have a Radnor Middle School partial roofing replacement that I'd like to go over, so.
Let's hear it. This was news to me, so you're ahead of the game. That's so exciting when we aren't saying this is falling down. You're saying, I'd like to fix something.
I would like to fix that,
And
yes.
as you set that up too, just a reminder to the full board and any community watching, we're looking at next week's business meeting. We will have a presentation and an update with our design team on the status of ITHN. So we will provide that during the full board meeting. And forgot to mention during curriculum, or I think Dr. Dukevich might have mentioned, we will also be talking about at our full board meeting a summary of the district initiatives. So we do have two fairly meaty topics for the board business meeting next week.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you. In your administrative packets, there are a lot of documents associated with this relatively simple project compared to what went on the last 2 years at the high school. But it's because there's a different means and methods of procurement and some other things that need to be taken into consideration, even though it is a rather simple roofing replacement. So the middle school roof consists of 3 different sections or 3 different types, and I'll go over those when we get to the aerial. But tonight we're talking about the shingled section, which is over top of the auditorium, main gym, auxiliary gym, and some mechanical spaces. That portion of the roof was identified in our 5 and 10-year capital plan. The plan was to actually tackle that next summer. But we have been chasing leaks. The roof is failing. We've been chasing leaks all last spring, through the winter and springtime, and it's time to move it up, right? So we need to accelerate that project. It's one of the rare roofing projects that we can actually accomplish while students are in the building, because it will not have an impact to the educational day in the classrooms, all right? There will be a little bit of some area outside that'll be impacted for staging and setup and things like that. We'll go over that on the next slide. But this is a great opportunity to get this done this fall, move it up, accelerate it. It'll allow us to bring some of our other roofing projects ahead of schedule and has the potential of saving. And we estimate upwards of about $1 million over the next several years by moving this project up and looking at some other opportunities in the future to avoid some of those assumed escalation costs. So that's where that savings comes in, with assumed escalation costs, all right? So again, we are talking about replacing the shingles over top of those select areas. It will include new gutters and downspouts, as well as snow guards and other safety precautions there. And we are looking to change from shingle to metal roofing, okay? So some of the challenges that we have with the shingled roof today is just the overall construction of the building with regards to shingles. Shingles have a tendency to really absorb the heat during the day. They hold the heat at night. They do require a lot of ventilation underneath of them to keep their integrity. So it's not the shingles themselves that's actually failing. It's the design and installation method and things like that are failing. So we are proposing to switch from shingles to standing seam metal. A color to which we have not decided yet. That's on the agenda to pick a color. I do have a recommendation. And then also, that'll do a couple things. As we look at sustainability, switching to metal roof, we are going to get a 30-year warranty in regards to the paint and the finishes, and with proper maintenance, the actual steel itself that's used for the panels. But we're really looking at a 50-year roof, right? And again, looking at some of the the roofing that we selected for the high school, it's renewable. So in 30 years, if we're like, hey, this roof is dull and it's faded and it needs to be updated, it's still in good integrity, we just resurface or recoat it. We get another 30-year warranty on top of it. So it's literally should be the last roof that that section of the middle school ever sees. It'll be the last time that we rip shingles off, throw them in the landfill, produce new shingles, and all of those impacts. So it's got a good sustainability behind it as well. So we are doing a couple other repairs. There's and I'll show you on the map, there's a parapet wall, which is just a fake decorative wall between areas that needs to be addressed. It's got some flashing issues. We're going to take care of that. And then we do have an issue on the other side of a small flat area where the water actually runs over the roof. It's not supposed to. And it runs down the wall and causes some other problems. We've identified that, and we're going to take care of that this year as well. And that's all included in this project. So in our original capital improvement estimate that we received and we presented in the spring, we were estimating that this roof section was around 2.2. We're coming in with a total project cost proposal from Maine's Roofing at 2.1. So we're around $132,000 below our budget, or our estimated budget for that section of the roof. So as we take a look at the aerial here, a lot going on here, but the shingled roof that I mentioned are the darker areas there. They're outlined in red, but don't be confused, because the red, if you look at the key, is actually some of the safety features that'll be installed to help protect the roofers and keep them safe. But it is those three darker areas there. And then it also extends out a little bit in front there where the bus loop is. So those shingled sections will get the standing seam metal roof. The flat section, and I guess I can't, there it is. Hopefully you can see my cursor there. But there is a small section of flat roof that extends through there. That is the section that is going to get redone as well. So that'll get the Alpha Guard system that we just installed. It's not a big area, but it is the length of that that we installed at the high school. So again, that'll get a renewable roof. When the warranty's up with that, we'll have the option to recoat that and extend the warranty again. The parapet wall that can be seen from the parking lot is this little tiny wall right here. So that's the one that's got the overflow scuffer and the flashing issues. We'll take care of that and seal that up. That's been a leak chaser for us. And then the other section, or the other piece, is right at the end here, where we're going to build a small little parapet wall to keep the water from running out. It'll now go in the drain where it's supposed to go. So I talked about 3 different roof sections earlier, and I just want to mention them so you're familiar with it. This is a partial view of the middle school. This white area here, throughout here, and down the mechanical spaces can be found in a couple other areas of the school. That's the flat roof section. That's identified in our 5 and 10 year capital plan, but that is not slated for complete removal and redo. That is slated for a resurfacing or restoration project in a few years. And then the green living roof that we have here is over top of the canopies for the bus entrance here. You can see it here, as well as the lobby and the bridges that go from the academic wing over towards the auditorium. And then what's not pictured there is there are 2 areas. You really can't see them from the road or anywhere up on top of the classroom wing. There are 2 areas of living roof up there. Those are years out because those roof sections, those living roof sections, are in really good condition. The living roof does a couple things, and one of the most important things is it blocks the roof from any UV rays, which is what deteriorates your roofing. So they're trays of plants that are put up there, so they can be renewed, they can be taken off, and new plants put on, and things like that. So that section's in really, really good condition. Some of the other things that are in the construction site plan is the yellow outline there that you see through the perimeter. So we will need to install a construction fence to keep the area secure. all entry into this area will be through this area up through here. So if we're bringing any materials in, manpower, things of that nature will be up through here. We will have a crane set up so that we can reach materials up into this area. That is proposed to be staged there. We'll have a dumpster, we'll have a storage trailer, and we're really trying to not utilize the basketball court. We just don't want to damage it. I know in the past there had been some, and that was resurfaced. So we're really going to limit our activities on the basketball court. But that will be off limits during the project, unfortunately. Now, when you talk about the yard work and the crane and the dumpster and things like that, we will be putting steel plates down to get us the crane in there, as well as these large mats so that we can drive over the yard. We can set the crane up. We'll limit disturbance of that area. So a lot of thought put into the staging area. I did meet with Dr. Weilich and Maine's Roofing on site at the middle school. We went through this plan as far as what would be fenced off. We talked about the limitations during the day with the students to that area, and the entrance in and out, not only for gym class or recess activities, but also during an emergency, right? So egress through it. And we do have a 12-foot wide emergency access right here at the fence area. Okay, so that's indicated here, and that will be available anytime that there is an emergency. We need to evacuate the building for any reason out through here. It'll also be available during the fire drills. That'll all be coordinated with the school. So on such and such day, there's a fire drill at 10 o'clock. We will actually shut down roofing activities. Everything will stop. They'll do their fire drill. The kids will go out. They'll come back. We'll restart roofing activities. There will be coordination with the bus drop-off and pickup, parent drop-off, pickup, staff, kids entering the building. We'll get those the roof materials up prior to kids coming in or after the kids leave. So that we'll coordinate all of those activities that might, impact or conflict with anything like that. That'll all be orchestrated, such as we've done at the high school as well. As far as what's available to the students, pretty much the rest of the entire field is available to them. So as well as that's a softball diamond over there. Softball diamond will still be available to them. So a lot of play area for the kids during this. So we do, if we can get board approval, we would, give them the color, which then prompts about a 6 to 8 week lead time for the materials. So that puts us in right around the end of October that we would start this project. It is about 8 to 10 week process, given weather, right? Relatively short process, but it is a lot of work. So we would hope to be wrapped up right around the beginning of the year with weather dependent. So, and then everything will get restored and opened back up. Procurement process, just real quick, just want to touch on that. This is through the Keystone Purchasing Network, which was used for the high school, but it's a different approach. It's through the Construction Procurement Network. And the reason why we chose that over the traditional KPN through WTI that we used at the high school is we're actually eliminating the construction management piece that program offers, which is saving us money. So we'll be handling the construction management and administration in-house ourselves for this project. So, any questions?
I have a bunch, but I'm going to defer to other people first.
Okay.
Sorry. Are you okay, Ms.? Mr. Thornton and Dr. Babson, do you have anything?
Ask Dr. Babson if you're okay. Well, one, this sounds like a great way to save money. I understand the inconvenience to the kids, but I think it's worth our savings at this point. We're always looking for ways to decrease costs, so I certainly applaud you on that. My concern is if you could talk a little bit more about what it means to take the construction management piece in-house. What does that mean in terms of financials, and what does that mean in terms of staff and capacity?
Sure. So the construction management, this is a relatively simple process as compared to if we were actually ripping a roof off down to the deck, putting insulation back on, doing high-level flashings, making sure our crickets and our tapers and our slopes and the processes. When you have multiple layers, every process has to be, done properly and ensured that it was installed properly before the next process goes on. The process for this is basically remove shingles. So I'll get into the construction piece and I'll get into the design piece. Remove shingles, where then, when you look through the proposal, we'll then cover the entire roof with ice and water shield. To pretty much make it weather tight. And then they'll put the clip fasteners on. The metal will all be basically formed on site into panels, put up on the roof, fastened, and seamed. So what does construction management look like? Construction management looks like, after the shingles are removed, making sure that the plywood, all the plywood has integrity, and then we're not going over anything rotted. It's making sure that the ice and water shield is installed properly, it's overlapped properly. It's making sure that the fasteners that they're using are of the right length and style per the spec. It's making sure that the fasteners, then the clips that hold the metal roof in, are spaced properly. It's making sure that when they seam the rolls, so when two pieces of roofing go on, they overlap, then they hand seam it, and then they use a machine to roll it. Making sure that that process is done thoroughly throughout. Making sure that the details on the flashing and the straps for the gutters and the size of the gutter and everything match what's designed by KPN, or by Tremco, basically, right? So I will have a book with all of the specifications in it. I'll have drawings that show all of the details, making sure that the overlaps are done at the very end properly, and then doing a punch list. So making sure that we don't have a lot of nicks and scratches in the metal, because that'll do premature wear, and things of that nature. So that's kind of the construction piece. The other piece is just making sure that, the schedule of values and the pay apps all coincide, that what they're billing us to date matches the work that has been performed, right? So they typically can bill us up to, if they're giving us an invoice in the 15th of the month, they can project to the 30th of the month. And just making sure that we're not overpaying them for the work that they've already performed. Making sure that the retainers are there, and then other things that we're already used to, clearances, certified payroll, all that stuff. Now, I will say, we do have the support of Tremco, right? So they will also be on site. So this is not a one-man show, or we're not out in the dark with this. We'd also have David Main's Roofing, who has performed time and time again. They're the ones that just have worked on the high school. So we know that the quality of work is there. That doesn't mean we don't check them, right? But we know that it'll be there. I'll give you an example of another project that I did, where I did the construction administration for a metal roof, and it was a little different. That roof we were able to actually leave the shingles on. This one we're not, and I have some information in your documents as to why we can't leave the shingles on. But I found that they used a different clip to hold the gutter on, and they were actually shocked, like, we were going to tell you before you saw that, because they knew I was up on the roof all the time, right? So it's just checking those things, right, and making sure we get quality control. But again, Tremco, the manufacturer, also stands behind their product through Keystone Purchasing Network. So they'll be on site from time to time, at least once a week, maybe 2 times a week, 3 times a week, because they have a vested interest in their product and their name as well. Does that answer your question?
It was Mr. Thornton's question.
It
but
does.
It was pretty thorough.
It does.
No.
It was. Just a follow-up question for you, if I could. When the project was originally scheduled for the spring, were we also incorporating the construction manager at that point, or is that a change based on the new timeline?
So it's not a change based on the new timeline. Our original capital improvement project, budget did include the project management. I took that piece out, right? Like I took it out. It has nothing to do with the timeline. The timeline moving up has to do with the fact that, we're just consistently experiencing what we call nail pops, where the nails are working loose, they're working up through the shingles, they're actually ruining, that's what put holes in the shingles. It makes them loose. Every time we have a high wind, I had the company come out, we do a full roof inspection. We replace a lot of shingles because of loose shingles after a windstorm. And then every time it leaks, it's an impact to gym class, right? So we got to put trash cans down. If it's after hours and we're renting the gym, we got to worry about a wet floor, things like that. So moving the timeline up was really more of, we recognize opportunity, let's get this done and eliminate all of the impacts, right? And any further damage that might occur to the building. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Other questions?
First of all, Mr. Morris, thank you. A couple things. I learned something tonight. I thought the live roof was the entire roof of the middle school.
Oh, yes. No.
So that was, and it's interesting to hear that it's still in good shape.
Yes.
I'm also pleased to hear, if you're comfortable, and I trust you, that you're comfortable with the management piece. And I think it actually gives us more comfort to know that you're connected to the process daily. So that's helpful. I'm good with that. I had a question about the roof over the auditorium. I understand a metal roof can be noisy. So if we have, over the gym, I think is okay, and it's over the other pieces, doesn't seem like it's instructional space. But the auditorium, if you have a big rainstorm and you have a play or something going on or some kind of event,
right,
how does that work?
So that's a great question, and it comes down to the composition of the roofing structure that currently exists. So metal roofs, you'll hear how loud they are and noisy they are during rain. And a common installation method is trusses with purlins across, and then metal roof right on top of it. There is no sound dampening whatsoever, right? I actually have a building that I own with that type of construction, and when an acorn hits and you're in the building, it sounds way louder than what it, you know what I mean? But so we have to look at the way the roofing is currently constructed. So you have a metal deck currently, then you do have insulation there, which offers the sound dampening. Then we've got plywood, and then we're going to do an ice and water shield. So the combination of all of those different materials, the insulation and sound factor of the insulation board that's on there, will dampen the sound very considerably. We do not believe, and when I say we, myself and Tremco, do not believe that there'll be an impact inside of the auditorium because of the way the roofing structure, right? If it was metal roof right on metal deck or something like that, I would be like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? So, and then in the auditorium, you do have all the clouds, right, that then help to keep the sound above them for deflection and things like that. So, we don't believe that there'll be an impact, no.
We will hear from the musical and artistics community if there is any noise, I'm sure.
I would just say, can I suggest that if we get a storm before we do the change, we have some type of readings on how loud it is now?
I can do an audible reading, yes.
Yeah, it might be a good idea, because
decibel
it is a great question. Get the decibels now, and then, and then we can compare it once it's done and be able to hopefully say it's actually just the same, or we're in the right,
Yeah. And we thought, on another project, and the reason I say that with confidence is, this is not the first project that I've experienced with doing this. And like I said, I did an entire elementary school. And that was a big consideration, right, in the classrooms and everything like that. So you really didn't, there was no complaints after the roof was put on as far as noise, so.
Well, the roof of Radnor Elementary is metal, no?
Yes, the roof at Radnor Elementary is also metal. So good point. I was going to bring that up because.
Okay.
Yeah, it's green. Yeah. So I was going to bring that up because that's what we are looking at tackling next summer. So I hope to bring to the Facilities Committee sometime in October that proposal, try to get ahead. I know the board had requested that we get these projects in front of you a little bit sooner. So we did take that in consideration. So we hope in October to be talking about Radnor Elementary School. I know we talk about a lot of roofs, right? But they are important. Top-down integrity of the building and envelope is important. But yes, Radnor Elementary School is probably 90% metal roof. So.
Ms. Rosenblum, did you have any questions? You don't have to, I just was asking.
No, I don't have any questions. I just have comments, but I think you're covering them as we spoke earlier.
Right.
And you covered, where the students are going to go during this time and the time frame, even if it does get extended beyond. I think if the weather cooperates and, we've got, perfect scenarios, it's 8 to 12 weeks. Is that right?
About 8 to 10. About
8 to 10?
8 to 10.
So,
if we get beautiful weather and things go seamlessly, we might see it in 6, right? But I always try to go on the safer side, 8 to 10 week project because, this summer, we lost 9 working days because of rain at the high school, right? So, but they hustled. As soon as they had a nice day, they hustled. We made up. We're about 3 days behind where I'd like to see us at the high school right now, but we're still going to be ready for school to start. So, you go over there today, it doesn't look like it, but you come September 2nd, it's going to look like a whole different area.
And
go ahead.
just saying with that, ready to start at the school, we will still have additional work at the high school into September, October,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we did last year.
We do.
So the roofers continue and they'll wrap up somewhere in October with the high
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
But when
So
they wrap up this year, October, which they
flashing
did
right.
last year too, now they're all done though, which is good.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
done the construction piece now. It's just some coding work. It's coding work. Same thing as last year, right? So when I say we're about 3 days from where I'd like to be, right? That's compared to last year.
And just to reassure all those high school students I know who are watching, their spaces will not be, the parking spaces will not be affected because they're going to move out of the student lot.
September 2nd, it's going to look like a whole different campus.
Perfect.
One minor question, and I think I asked this before, so if you don't have the answer, you can let us know later. Change orders. At the high school, we didn't have any change orders for the roof
Right.
for
So
this project.
yeah, so when you go to the construction, when you go to the Construction Procurement Network, CPN as it's listed in there, you do give that up, right? Because we are contracting directly with the contractor and not the construction management firm. But again, looking at the scope of work, right? Removal of the shingles and things like that. And then since we're going to have drawings and we're going to have details and things of that nature, right? Unless we have an unforeseen, right? Like now they've done core drillings, they've walked the roof, but that doesn't mean that when we rip the shingles off, we're not going to find some plywood. There's allowances and stuff like that, but we're not going to find some plywood or something like that that has to be addressed, right? But we're not prone to significant change orders on this type of project at all.
Okay. Thanks, Ken.
So I don't need long answers on all these questions, but I do just want to kind of make sure I
That's
tick off.
just how I am.
No, I know you are, and I'm like that too. So, but I know everybody else is looking at the clock and
Yeah.
wishing we were done. So this building is not 30 years old, because I know it was put up while I lived in the township. There's no warranty on on the roof we have currently. Was it only 20 years? Do you know?
So, and that's a good point, because it's not the shingles that are failing. It's the way it's constructed and the way that metal deck and then the insulation and then the plywood and the shingles, there's no we're not getting the proper ventilation underneath of the shingles. So the shingles just sit there in the sun and they just bake all day long. And
So let me say this with my lawyerly brain, there's nobody who's liable to us for this failing this early?
not anymore.
Not anymore, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it hasn't, it's not 25 years, it's only 20.
it's about 20 years.
Yeah.
I think 12. About 12 is the maximum stat.
Yeah, Radnor and then, yeah, okay.
And this is not uncommon.
No, I hear you. I just,
A lot of school districts.
it's
have
frustrating,
suffered
well,
this.
it's frustrating when you think the building's not that old in terms of the envelope should be lasting longer.
And we're not that far off from a roofing replacement anyway, right? So when you look at years, it's not like we did it 9 years ago and it failed, right?
No,
We
no,
got
I
an
hear you.
alternative,
I hear you.
so.
A couple things, so I'm just gonna go in the order of what's written here. I just wanna make sure we're being sensitive. I feel like I remember there's some kind of retention space under that field, but maybe it's not where they're gonna be storing things.
So we have
Worried about
geothermal well
large
field.
equipment.
So looking at the plans and the prints, we believe that the geothermal well field is beyond the fenced area.
Okay,
There is a underground culvert that runs through there.
Yes.
So
That's what
that's
I'm
been
thinking of.
identified. However, we're gonna be putting the steel plates down, all
Okay.
of that stuff, to get the crane in. So it's not like a lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
And then we'll switch to the lull, which will be moving back. It is a piece of equipment, but it'll be running over top of the steel plates and the mats and things of that nature.
okay.
So-
And do warn them about that tennis, the baseball, basketball court, because we have replaced that in the last 5 years.
Yes,
We've had to
and that's-
resurface it twice.
That's why you don't see any
Yeah, no, I appreciate-
storage or staging.
Yep,
You know, there
yep.
might be some boxes and stuff like that, but no heavy equipment.
Is there any risk to the parking at the administrative building? I know parking's at a premium here, and I'm just thinking if they have to come around that curve and get in, are we, based on their access site, you're
We're
fine
gonna
with the
coordinate-
larger
we're-
equipment?
That's all gonna be coordinated so that they're in and out during times that they can get in and out.
Okay.
We will need parking, for the.
For their
constru-
staff,
For
yeah.
their staff. So I believe with the spaces that we have over at Runnymede that are empty,
Okay.
they can walk across. I'm also, the idea of township and parking permit on the street. I don't
Okay.
know if that's available, so we did kind of like mention that.
Okay.
To see if we could do that, but we're not gonna take up any staff parking, we're not gonna take up anything like that.
Okay. The metal roofing, and this is gonna come, so what's your color recommendation, I guess?
Slate gray.
The slate gray. And are you hoping that partially, because I worry about metal heats up and then it's gonna increase our AC costs?
Right.
Or
but
you're
the-
saying that the insulation and the structure won't affect
Yeah,
things?
that's what that is. Actually, the metal will absorb less heat than the shingles, and
Okay.
it'll expel heat faster than what the shingles were.
Okay.
So,
It doesn't affect our heat efficiency in the winter, though? Okay. You've gotta look at both sides.
yeah, you gotta, it's a balance.
And I assume this is really more a question for Dr. Weidlich, but it seems to me like, there are kids who really want to play basketball. I'm hoping, in the fall, and they're out there on the hard surface, and I'm hoping there might be some option for indoor recess at least a couple times a week. You didn't talk about that,
I did not get into that aspect
Oh,
of the
that's fine.
programming with
Yeah,
him.
okay, no, that's fine. What happens if they're not done by late January, which would be, 3 months? Like, if the weather's bad, are we gonna have trouble with this?
They don't work. If it's raining, they don't work. If it snows, they don't work, right? So we will, we have an estimated timeline, kind of like the same thing with the roof. So we'll have a project schedule. We'll try to work within that. We'll go through this, everything in the schedule and stuff like that, like we'll settle on, a projected substantial completion date and things of that nature, so.
They'll work till they get done, and then
They'll work till they get done.
And they'll leave it, if there's a storm coming, they're gonna leave it in condition, obviously, that we.
They'll
won't
leave
have-
it in tight condition.
Yes.
Yes.
So they're watching the weather and aware. I just worry, we don't want to make these leak problems worse.
No, so
Having
same thing that we
shingles
did
off.
at the high school, where, again, there was 9 days this summer, that they didn't work. And that was because of looking at forecasts. So if they think that they're gonna open or expose, a section of roof that is subject to, leakage that day, and they can't do it because of rain or forecast, they're not going to do it, right? They'll come back.
So then the only other question I had, and it sounds frivolous, there is green trim on that building, green metal trim on that building, isn't there?
There is on the bus.
Is it just on the bus side that I'm thinking of? You're not looking
Yes, sir.
to replace that just for color match, it's okay to stay green?
It's okay to stay.
Okay, it wasn't part of your plan, I know it's okay, but I mean,
Right. No, it was not for the, and we actually kind of talked about that, like, you know, we could, because it is metal, like, we could do, if we could do a resurface on that or a recoating, which it wouldn't be much to change that green color if we wanted to, but.
and just why the gray instead of just matching the green? I know the green won't match because it's faded, but why not
Right.
green, like the
So green,
Radnor
yeah.
Elementary? That's the only,
Again, green is not going to look like the green that we have. I think green is going to be in the center of town. It's going to pop, right? Like, so gray's a nice neutral color, right? It's not too flashy. It's not too poppy. It has a great, over the years, you know, you are going to get sun fade, right? So it's not one of those colors that fade to something lime green. There's also a thing called, when you talk about metal roofs, it's called oil puddling, okay? So basically, it's those dark stains that you get on the roof from the road pollutants, right? So the oils and the exhaust fumes and things like that, just from whatever's in the rain, and you get these, what they call oil-looking puddles on the roof. So you won't notice, like, the spotting of the roof that you would if you went with like a lighter color. So darker colors, your reds, your blues, your greens are going to fade, red to pink, green to lime green, things like that. Lighter colors are going to show more of the environmental impacts on the roof, so it may look dirty. So the slate gray, in my opinion, is a good neutral color that kind of takes care of a lot of those different aspects.
We need to have the color picked by what day?
Ideally, I would love to see a color picked by next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
so you need it at the board meeting so you can place orders on Wednesday and
So-
get the 6 to 8 lead time
Lead
running.
time.
I mentioned this to board members for after the meeting, if they want to stick around, the color deck is right here. You can look, and you can also, in the next couple of days, drive by the building and look. And, you know, we have been bouncing around administratively, you know, between two colors as well. So, so your input would be helpful, you know, after the meeting or the next couple of days.
But
That'd be-
in all honesty, you know, like if you were to go with green color, it would fade to what Radnor looks like today, right?
Okay, okay.
It's also limited visibility from what we spoke
Yeah,
about,
you
right?
don't see a lot
There's
of
not
it.
a
unless
lot.
you-
It doesn't seem like you would see it. The people who are going to see
No.
it, most of the people who live in those condos that look over our field, or the apartments across the street.
Yeah, well, not so much from that direction, but the further you get
Up
out
the
towards
hill.
Lancaster Avenue and there, like you might see the side of the gym,
Okay.
you know, things
I'll have
like
to go
that.
wander through town and see what I can see of the roof now. Okay. A very thorough thank you, and I echo the support of, you know, trusting you and Mr. Dolan to oversee the construction on this. That's great. Anything else from the facilities? This was the last thing on the agenda. Okay, great. The last item on the agenda then is board announcements. Our next meeting, as we've referenced repeatedly, is next Tuesday, August 26th, at 7 p.m. in the Radnor Shire Room of the Municipal Township Building, at 7 as usual. And then next month, our meetings will be posted and advertised as required, but we will be meeting on the 9th, the 16th, and the 30th. The 9th and the 16th will be committee meetings, and the 30th will be our regular board meeting. Check our website for more information. And with that, we are